In this video, we're going to learn all about Google Forms. And what is Google Forms? It is, in my opinion, the best way to collect information from a large group of people, or even a small group of people. A lot of people think of it as a way to create surveys, and it's great for that, but there's lots of other ways in which you could use it other than just as surveys. The reason they call it Google Forms is because it's a way to create a form that you could post on the internet or email to someone. So here's an example of a form that abc.com has on their website. You just select a particular issue, and as soon as you do that, the rest of the form pops up, and you can fill in this form and submit it. And of course, ABC will receive the comments and the information that I put into this form and submit to them. So let's look at how we can create our own forms using Google Forms. As you can see, I'm right here on google.com, and most people go here just to search for a website or a picture or whatever it might be. But you can also sign in to Google or sign up for Google. In the upper right corner, typically there's a sign in button right here, and you can click it to sign in. Now, what if you don't have a Google account or a Gmail account or any other account that Google gives out? Well, you would still click sign in, but then you would actually use it to sign up and register as a Google user. I've already signed in, and because I've done that, notice what it gives me. It gives me this apps symbol. And if I click on the Google Apps symbol, it shows me the suite of tools that I can access and use because I have signed up to use Google. And this is the one that has Google Forms in it. It's called Google Drive. So I'm going to click on Google Drive. And if you want to learn more about Google Drive, I have other videos that cover Google Drive in detail. But in this video, we're going to focus on this one aspect of Google Drive, which is Google Forms. Now you can see in Google Drive, I've got a few different documents and forms that I've already created in the past. But if I want to create a new one, there's an obvious place I should go to do that. Here at the left, there's the new button. Just click it, and I should be able to find forms. But look, it's not there. I don't see forms listed anywhere. There's a button there to make a Google Doc, one for a Google Sheet, which is like Excel, and one for a slides presentation that's like PowerPoint. But what about forms? Well, to get forms, you have to go down to More, and there's Forms. I'll click that, and it opens up the Google Forms wizard, basically. This is what I'm going to use to create my Google form. And let's say back to school night is coming up, and I would like to create a form for the parents that might be coming to back to school night, and I want them to fill this out. So I'll just go in, and where it says Untitled Form, I'm going to click. It highlights it automatically, and I'll type in back to school night parent survey. Underneath that, if I want to, I can describe the form. So there's a nice little description. You can skip that part if you don't need a description. Next up, I need to create my first question, and Google Forms automatically gives me kind of a placeholder question. It's completely blank, but it's ready to go. It's ready to be adapted, edited, and used. So I need to go in and title my question. Now, the first few times I used Google Forms, this was confusing to me. It talked about the question title or untitled question. So you're saying I need to title my question? No, you don't really have to title your question. This is basically where you put question number one. So I'll go ahead and do that. Question number one is going to be parent name. Okay, the name of the parent. So the parents now should know what to do. They need to put their name in. Unfortunately, look, it's multiple choice. That's not going to work to put in multiple choice parent names. So over here on the right, I need to click where it says multiple choice and switch to either paragraph or short answer, which makes more sense in this case. So I'm going to click short answer. And I'm almost done now with question number one in my Google Forms survey in this case. Before I move on, I'd want to look through some of these options in the lower right corner of the question. So obviously there's a delete button, looks like a trash can. I don't want to do that. There's duplicate. If this question is very similar to the next question, I might want to click that to just duplicate it. And actually it is, so I'll use that in just a minute. But before I do, notice that there's another option to require that the participant or the person who's answering the survey or filling out the form, that they have to answer this question or else they can't proceed. So I will do that. I'm going to click required. It turns on this switch or flips the switch, and now this is a required question. There's also these three vertical dots in the lower right corner. Those are also important. If you click on it, sometimes you'll get additional options, and those options change based on the kind of question that you're asking. So this is a short answer question. It gives me two options. I can give some hint text. If my question here is unclear, I can make it more clear by providing a hint. In this case, I really don't think I need a hint. The other option we have is data validation. And if you choose this, you can require that the answer that the survey respondent puts into the form, you can require that it be a number, and a number greater than or equal to or less than or equal to or whatever. There's all of these options, but I could force them to put a number greater than, let's say, 5. And then if it's not greater than 5, then an error message will be displayed. So let's try it out. At any time during the process of creating your Google form, you can go up here in the upper right and click Preview, and you'll be able to see what the form is doing and what it looks like on the internet. So I'll click Preview and get a sense of my beautiful survey so far. So I'll put in 4 and look what it says. Must be a number greater than 5. I'll put 7, then it works. I'm done previewing the survey, so I'm going to X out of it in the upper right, and I'll just leave the page, and I'm back now on the tab that I'm using to edit and create my survey. So obviously with parent name, it doesn't make sense to require that it be a number, but notice that you could also require that it be text, and that text contains or doesn't contain different things, or a regular expression, whatever that is. So these are some pretty powerful tools and options that you have in these 3 little vertical dots. So watch out for those. Okay, I'm going to turn off the data validation and turn off the text. This is all I need. Question number 1 is done. Now question number 2. In addition to getting information about the parent's name, I would like the student's name so that I can connect the parent and the child together in my mind and in my records. So that is a similar enough question that I'm just going to click here and duplicate question number 1. Now I'll go in and change it from parent to student name, and question number 2 is finished. Now for question number 3. I would like to know the grade level of the student. So I need a different kind of question. I could do it as a short answer, but it makes more sense to do it differently. So for my next question, I'm not going to duplicate. Instead, I'm going to go over to the right side of the screen. You can see there's a little panel with additional tools and options that we have. The plus sign is for adding a question. So I'll click it, and there's my 3rd question. And this question is going to be, what grade is your student in? And I could do this as a multiple choice type question where I go in and I click for option number 1, 7th. I just hit enter, but you can also use the mouse. But I just hit enter and I'll put in 8th. This time I'll use the mouse. I'll click add option and I'll put in 9th. So I'm done with this question. Now I might want to also make this one required, and I might want to check those 3 vertical dots. And notice that this time it's a little bit different. There's an option still for hint text, but now look, there's an option to shuffle the option order. Now in this case, I don't want to do that. I want it to be 7th, 8th, and then 9th. But sometimes in a survey, you might want to jumble it up so that you don't accidentally put your own bias into the question, where maybe you put the answer you're hoping that they'll answer first or third or whatever. So it might be a good idea to shuffle option order. In this case, I don't think it makes sense. There's also the ability to go to a new section based on an answer, and this is kind of an advanced Google Forms option, but suffice it to say that if you click that, you could set it up so that if they answer 7th grade, they go to the next section. But if they select 8th grade, they go to a different section. And if they select 9th grade, they go to yet another section. We'll look at making sections later, but this is kind of an exciting feature in forms. You can create branching forms. All right, I'm satisfied with that question. Let's move on and look at other types of questions you can add into your forms. In addition to multiple choice and short answer, notice that you have paragraph for long answers. There's checkboxes, and with checkboxes, the participant can check more than one answer. So that's the nice thing there. You can also create a drop-down type question where you type in the options, and then the participant will have a drop-down similar to this, and they'll be able to click and select from the list that you create here. Linear scale is kind of like on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the school year? Let's do that one. So I'll click linear scale, and I put my question there, and I'll just type in, how nervous is your student for this school year? Now it gives me the scale on a scale of 1 to 5, but if you prefer, you could change it to 1 to 2, or 1 to 3, or 1 to 10, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10. Next up, you put in the labels for what 1 means and what 10 means. So 1 is not nervous at all, and 10 means extremely nervous. Okay, so that's awesome that you can create these scale type questions in Google Forms. Other question types that we can create include multiple choice grids, also dates and times. And I would encourage you to explore and experiment with those options as you build your forms. Okay, now as you're creating your questions, there are some other tools to be aware of. Underneath the Add Question option, notice that there's an option to add title and description. Now, I already have a title and description. What if you want another title and description? Or maybe just think of it as more like just a section heading and description. So I can just click that and it gives me another title and description that I can type in. I really don't need that in this case. Notice that there's also a tool here for adding an image. So, for example, with this question, how nervous is your student for this school year? I might want to add a picture to maybe add some humor to this type of question. So I'll click on Add Image. And Google Forms gives me several different ways to add a picture to my Google form. I can upload that picture by clicking here where it says choose an image to upload, or I can just click and drag a picture from my desktop or some other location on my computer and drop it here and it will be uploaded in. You can take a snapshot using the camera on your device. You could choose by URL and put in a website URL and it would pull in the picture that it links to. You could go to your albums in Google Drive. You could go to your albums, you could go to Google Drive, but more often than not, I usually just click here on search and I just type in what I'm looking for. So I'll type in nervous and it gives me some pictures, and here's one that's kind of humorous, so I'll click on that one, click select, and now it's putting that picture into my Google form. Now it put it below where I wanted it to be. That's okay. In Google Forms, that sometimes happens, and you can move things where you want them to really be by clicking on these 6 little dots toward the top of each question or each item in your form, and just click and drag and put that where you want it to be. Okay, so that's how you can add an image into your Google form. Let's check what it looks like now. Just by going up here to the top, clicking preview. There's my form. It looks great. There's the scared student. Looks more like a parent probably, but that's okay. So it's looking great. This is a very professional looking form or survey, and yet so far it's been super easy to create it. I'm going to X out of it to get back into the Google Forms creator. And here I need to show you that you can also add video. It's quite similar to what I showed for images, except there's just a couple of options for video. You can search YouTube or you can pull in a website URL. Here with video search, like I said before, you're searching YouTube, and so you can do a search and then find a video. You can preview the video to make sure that it's one that you would want to include. And then once you've previewed it, you can click select, and that video will be added to your Google form. In this case, I don't really want that, so I'll delete it. And now we get to the final tool that you have on this panel on the right, and that is Add Section. So you can create a really long Google form that's just all in one long page, kind of like a blog, or you could decide to chop it up into sections so that, let's say if it's a long form, page 1 will deal with the basic information about the participant. Page 2 will start to get into the questions, and then page 3 really you get into the nitty-gritty of the survey, however you want to do it. But you can create multiple sections for your Google Forms, and this is how you do it. Click Add Section. Okay, and when I clicked that, notice that it gave me a new section. It kind of split my content so that section 1 will pretty well fit on the screen by itself, and then section 2 will be on the second page. Now I need to change this up. My picture went to the wrong place, to the wrong section, and this question should be up at the top in section 1. So I'm just going to click and drag to fix that. Let's see if I can put my image down in section 2, and I can. There it is. And of course I could create a section 3 and on and on. So we're just about done learning how to create a Google form. There's one more little thing that you need to be aware of with regards to building the Google form, and that is you don't have to stick with just this generic one color background for your Google form. You know, what if I don't like purple? What if I don't want that to be the color on my Google form? Fortunately, you can go up to the top here and click on what looks like an artist's palette. They call it the color palette. Just click on that and it lets you change the background color for your Google form. So I'm relieved that I can change it from purple to something more appropriate that matches the spirit of my Google form. So I could go with green. But look in the lower right corner, there's yet another option, and it looks like a little image symbol. If you click on that, it gives you some pre-made themes that you can choose from for your Google form. Here's one great for birthdays. So I could just click on that one and then click select. And notice there is my Google form with the birthday theme. So this is a really fun, exciting way to add a little bit of personality to your Google Forms. And you can see there's some based on the time of year, based on the purpose of your form. There's one for kids, okay? So you'll have to just kind of browse through and find the ones that match your purpose or your class or, something that makes it appropriate for you and your students. Notice that you can also upload photos of your own, that you could create a theme out of yourself. So I'm just going to go back up to illustrations and I'm going to pick this one here with the ties. So I click on it, I click select, and that now is the theme of my Google form. It's also important that you know about the settings for your form. So here we have a gear symbol. If you click that, this has some important settings. I am pretty much done creating my form at this point, but these settings are important because they affect how the form actually performs. For example, do you want to check this? If you do, that makes it so that each person can only answer the survey once. Now that requires that they have a Google login and password, that they have a Google account. So just know that that's a requirement. If you check that box, all of your students will have to have a Google account to answer the survey. And same with parents and colleagues. So I'm going to uncheck it. Next up, confirmation page. When the participant finishes filling out the form, what do you want them to see? There's a default message, but you could put in a message of your own. So I could put in a message like, "Thanks for being awesome." Okay, so the parents, as they fill out the form, they'll see that little compliment and pat on the back. Okay, so now that I've got that set up, I can opt to provide an easy way for the students or parents to submit another response. If you click that, there will be a handy link that they can click to just enter another response. You can make it so they can edit their response or not. And what if you want them to be able to see a summary of responses, including their own response? That's kind of handy. There's also some presentation options. What they mean by presentation is just how it looks when the participants are filling out the form. Do you want them to have a progress bar that lets them know how close they are to finishing? I think it's a great idea, especially if it's a longer form. And then you can also shuffle the question order so that the questions don't come in the same order for every student or every parent that fills out the form. So my form is ready. I'm going to click Save. Now that it's ready, I have to ask myself, how do I make this available to the parents or to the students or whoever's going to be filling out the form so that they can answer the questions? Now in this case, if it's back to school night, I probably just set up a laptop with this form on it and have them fill it out as they walk into the classroom. But another way to do it would be to send it to them in advance or after the back to school night. So to do that, you would click Send here in the upper right corner. And there's some different ways you can send it. Send it by email, send it by link, or embed the form. So let's talk about each. With email, obviously you just put in the email addresses of the people who you want to take the survey. So I can just put in person's email address, put in a comma, and then put the next person's email address, and continue. Next, you could put in the subject, and this is the subject of the email message. So please fill out this survey. That's going to be the subject that they see in their email. I could put in a message to the recipients of this email. And if I want to, I can actually embed the Google form that I've created in this actual email message. If you click that, they'll just see it right there in the message itself. If you don't click that, they'll just get a link that they have to click to go to the form and then fill it out. So either way, they're both good options. Just click Send when you're ready. So that's email. Link is the one that I use most often. It gives you this giant ugly link, but if you click on it, you can then copy the link. And if you need to, you can click Shorten URL. That gives you a much better address if you're going to be writing it on the board or something like that, or putting it on a handout. It's a lot more manageable. And then I could copy it, and then I could just paste that anywhere I want. I could paste it onto my website or my blog or into my learning management system. Wherever I put that, anyone that clicks the link will be able to fill out the form that I've created. With embed, it gives you an embed code. You'd have to highlight that, copy it, and then paste it into your blog or website or learning management system. And after you've done that, the form should appear right inside the website or blog or learning management system as if it were part of the page. So it's a really nice way to do it. It can be a little bit harder than these other two methods though. Okay, so I've created a beautiful form ready to be answered. I've sent out that form. Now, how will I receive the answers from the respondents? The way I'll do that is by clicking here on Responses. And this will give me a tally of the responses and a list of some of those responses as they come in. So to give you a sense of what this looks like, I have answered my own survey, and you can see now that there's a respondent there, Google Forms has given me a pop-up that says now you can switch between seeing a summary or each response one by one. You can remove individual responses from this view. So here is response number 1, and I can see that. And notice that it also gives me a summary of all of the respondents. Now, so far only one person has responded, but as these responses come in, I'll be able to look at this pie chart and know that there's 10 parents of 7th graders that have responded and 20 parents of 9th graders and so on. So this is a really great way to see the responses that people submit. Notice that I am still accepting responses, but when that changes, I could switch that switch, and now it's not accepting responses. Also notice if you would rather not see the responses in this list view, you can click here on this button and this creates a spreadsheet and you'll be able to look at the responses in spreadsheet form. So I'm going to go here and I could give it a name, Parent Survey Responses, click Create, and now it gives me a spreadsheet that is tied to this Google form. And as parents answer the questions and submit their form, their responses will be added to this spreadsheet that's inside of my Google Drive. Okay? There's also some options here about the responses. I could get an email notification every time somebody responds. And you can see there's some other options as well. So that's really all you need to know about Google Forms. How to create the form and the questions that are part of it, how to send the form out so that people can respond to the form, and then how to look at the responses that they submit. So I hope that you've enjoyed learning about Google Forms, and I hope that you'll find them very useful and effective in what you do. Thanks for watching, and please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel for more video tutorials about technology for teachers and students.